Hi everyone, welcome on the Jen Somaga show. We are so excited today because guess what? We are already in the spring season. Yes, we're gonna be out there enjoying the weather. So yes, thank you so much. Those of you who are watching us for the first time, you are most welcome. You just made the right decision to be part of this journey that we are in. You know, we get encouraged here, we learn from one another, we get motivated, we empower ourselves, and I'm telling you, we are enjoying every bit of it. So stay tuned and let us have a wonderful time together. Today, before we start on this beautiful topic that I'm introducing today, it's a wide one, but we're gonna just briefly talk about it, and then we'll come back and discuss more. I know you'll be discussing, comment, talk to me about it. But before we do that, I want to say thank you so much to all of you parents out there for the great work you are doing. It's not easy, especially for those of you who are in diaspora. I know many people have different challenges. We face many situations that we even don't know how to go about. But I want to encourage you and say that we are just stewards of these beautiful souls. God made us stewards. How we thank Him that He made us, He trusted us with them. So all we need to do is to play our part the best way we can. And then trust God to do the best, because He can do the best job, you know. We try, but He does the best job. So don't give up on our children. Don't feel so discouraged. You are not alone. Don't feel so alone there in the night. Find a friend. Talk about it. You know, if you do not have a friend, you've just found one, call me, text me, let's talk. You just need to know that there are people out there who are willing to pray together with you, to cry together, because, you know, we need one another to raise our children the best way we can, and let everything to God at the end of it all. So thank you so much for the great work, for the support you give to one another. Parents also want to say that we should be supportive to one another instead of judging each other, or maybe so-and-so is not doing a great job. Maybe Jane has failed the children. Let's not do that. Let's just support, give each other support, you know, and yes, everything will work out for good for those who love the Lord. Well, that was just a by the way, but today I have a very interesting topic that I want us to talk about. It's so wide, but we'll introduce it and then we can come back as many times as we want to talk about it. And this topic is assumptions. Assumptions. I want to say that assumption as itself has been there for ages. Even in the Bible, we see people assuming. You know, when we think something is right, just because that's the way we believe it, that is assuming, because we don't have proof about it, but we are believing it is the truth. So people, even in the Bible, I'm trying to say that that's how big, wide assumption is. That even way back in the Bible, people assumed. There's this guy, a prophet, who sees a lady called Hannah praying. For those of you who are Bible readers, in the book of 1 Samuel. So this lady is crying to God, so tired of the situation she's going through. She's saying enough is enough. We want to see, I need a change in my life. I need a change in my family. I need a baby, you know. She's crying and trusting God. Then a prophet of God, I think his name is Eli, comes to war and says, my friend, why are you drunk why do you come drunk in the house of the Lord? That is something you wouldn't expect from a man of God. You expect him to come and affirm your prayer and say, oh yes, may God grant you your prayers. But this time, the man of God is assuming that this woman, the way she was expressing herself, she was drunk. So that was wrong. It was an assumption that the man of God did. And even it happened after Christ had gone to heaven and promised the Holy Spirit that was coming in the book of Acts upon the disciples. So when the Spirit came upon them and they started speaking different tongues, the Bible says that those who heard them outside the building, they started saying, oh my God, these people are just drunkards. But no, they were filled with the Spirit of God. So what am I trying to say? That assumptions have been there for ages. So even in our generation today, there is a lot of assumptions that go on among us. But it's not the best behavior, because you know what? It's something that you believe in and trust, but you do not have proof. You know, you just come up with your idea, you think about it, and then, yes, it is, but it's not the truth. So I was looking at some of the assumptions that we have as immigrants. And I'm like, yes, there are some areas that we need to sit down and reassess ourselves and sit and say, you know what? I need to do better, because assuming doesn't take me anywhere. For instance, most of us were maybe misled before we came, whereby people used to say, oh, when you go to America, you'll find furniture on the street, you find the TVs on the street, you find beautiful things, maybe even money, you can just pick it on the streets. That was very wrong, because now most of us come with that thinking, you know, thinking that everything's going to be smooth, everything's going to be so perfect. You get what I mean? Everything will just work out the way you want. And you find that most of our friends even sell their properties back home. They sell their land, they sell their cattle, they sell everything, their buildings, to come to the promised land, I would say. And when they come, they tend to be depressed. People tend to be discouraged just because things don't go the way that they expected. So, going back to assumption, there is that belief where there is no proof most times, that as soon as you get to America or to London or to Australia or Canada, everything will go shh. That is how one of our minister in Uganda talked about the economy of Uganda. He says that the economy of Uganda is just like shh, it's just like taking off. It's so smooth. But I don't know if that assumption also is right. Anyway, going back to assuming that when we come to these countries, everything's gonna be shh, it's not the reality. Yes, it can be perfect, but you're going to work towards it. You're gonna work your way towards that good life. You're gonna work hard towards that enjoyment, The things that you've heard, the stories of furniture, TVs being laid on the street. When I came, I noticed that these were old stuff, used. People took them out of their homes when they were buying new stuff. Some of them even have roaches in them, so you can't even use them. You see? That's wrong assumption that when you go, everything's going to be perfect. No, that's wrong. Actually, I'm passing on this message to our friends. If you get to watch this and you are in Uganda or somewhere else in a foreign, in a third world country, and you have your relative who went to maybe, in the first world, please, I'm speaking on behalf of millions who might not get a chance to express their feelings. Stop calling these people in the midst of the night and asking them money for you to go for a vacation or for you to go to buy a new dress for your party. I'm not saying that you don't need the support. Yes, you do need the support, okay? But just the same way you work in Uganda, it's the same way people in America are working. They work double shifts. They call them double shifts. You work from 6 maybe to 11 in the night, and then from there they go to other jobs. So they're working so hard. So when they give you, okay, I'm not saying they should not give you, but when they give you the money, value that money, use it for the good, not for you to go buy booze and drink, Call them and thank them. Give them a call and just say, hey, how are you doing? How was your day? They want to hear those phone calls. That assuming that for them everything is so perfect is wrong, So, going back, that many immigrants, when they first arrived here in America or anywhere, they had that assumption of thinking that everything's going to be perfect, yet that is not the reality. You're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to ensure that you go to school maybe, or you get a job, or you get legal stay. Because, for instance, here you cannot just go and open a restaurant or start, in Uganda we call it mudala, and start working. No, that's not how it is. They're going to ask you for your social security number, and you've never heard about social security number, just to get health medical attention. So that's how hard it can be, that you don't just appear in a hospital. They need, your legal stay to be treated. Or, you should be having insurance and all that. There's a lot that goes on behind that we really didn't know and we just assumed. So that is going back, that's one of the assumptions that we have that is wrong, that when you come, things are so perfect. So no, it is not that. It's not that. That's why I'm saying, people who are back in Africa, stop calling these people for money every time. I will repeat it. Stop putting pressure on them. Why aren't you building? Why aren't you... and that's also another assumption, whereby people who are back, for instance, in Africa, I'll basically say Uganda because that's where I know most, that they think that if someone has not done something back home, then they are not doing well. That's also another wrong assumption, because people are living well where they are. People have invested in those places where they are. So you thinking that they are here and doing nothing is also wrong, because they have not yet built a mansion back home. Some people have already decided that they spend most of their time here in these countries, so they better make their lives better in the places where they spend most of the time than where they spend 2 weeks vacation or holiday. So that's a wrong assumption too that I wanted to also pass on to us. And also another very interesting assumption for us immigrants is thinking that when you are in a store or on a bus or at your workplace, then you are the only Luganda speaker or Swahili speaker, or whichever language it is. That's also it's very wrong, and it's an assumption that we should work towards erasing in our lives. Because I'm telling you, as you got the visa and you went to where you are, another person did too. So you're not the only Ugandan at that workplace. You're not the only Ugandan in the store. For instance, let me tell you a very interesting story. So one time I got to this store. I went with my daughter, the young one. She's 9 years old. So this beautiful, so with me, we are buying candles. I love candles. So we are in the candle aisle, smelling candles, touching this one, putting this one down, picking another. And she's speaking, she's so bubbly, and she was telling many stories, but of course with the American accent. So these two people come in the store, a gentleman and a lady. I don't want to assume that it was a couple, but they were a man and a woman. Maybe they were brothers. So we are trying to cut out any assumptions now, right? So anyway, they come to the aisle where we're standing. I think they also wanted the candles, and they found us there. So the guy goes and says, naye bano nabo bali wano balabika ne bibaze okugula tebabimanyi singa bavaayo ffe ne tugula tulina ebyokukola, you know. So for a minute I froze and I'm like, is he talking about me? Because most times people assume that when they look at me, they assume I'm Kenyan. Because for many instances, I've found people who speak to me Kikuyu. Kikuyu brothers and sisters, I might be looking like you, but I'm not Kikuyu. I'm not from Kenya. And then I've found people who think I'm from Ethiopia, and they also talk to me, and I'm not from Ethiopia. That's also an assumption. And some other people assume I'm from Rwanda. Maybe those are partly right, because yes, my mother is a Rwandi born in Uganda, but my father is Muganda. He's a Ugandan. Era ndi mukyala wa Mamba, nedda Mamba, newankubadde kati nafuuka wanvubu kubanga nafumbirwa banvubu. So I'm a Ugandan, okay? So many times people assume that I'm not Ugandan because, of course, the way, I don't know, maybe I don't look like Baganda, I don't know. But anyway, yes, that's what happened. I'm thinking that's what happened, that when my friends saw me, they assumed I'm not from Uganda, and therefore they had the right to speak the Uganda even in my presence. So I at first thought that it was not, maybe it wasn't me they were talking about. But then as I moved away from the aisle, the lady says, baba no bavuddewo, jangu tukolechi, jangu tugule. Bano banna batamanyi kye baagala bavuddewo, jangu tukolechi, tugule bye twagala. So I was like, well, it means they were talking about me. I know you're interested to know what I said. So I turned around very gently and I greeted them in Luganda. Nembagamba banne mujje baleko. Mbalamusizza nange no ndi munna Uganda. I greeted them and I introduced myself as a Ugandan. You could have loved to see how their faces looked. You see the embarrassment? So us thinking that we are the only Ugandans, or you know, at our workplaces or wherever we are, is wrong, because you are not the only one. So therefore we have to be so careful what we are speaking when you are in a store. I've been in a store and I've heard many people gossiping. Personally, maybe I've also gossiped, you know, talking about maybe my friends or my workmate, and you don't know who is the person in the next aisle, whether they know your language, you know. Someone's talking so bad, ill about their spouse, and you're looking like you wanna say something. It's so embarrassing, you know. So that's a very one of the assumptions that we have, and it's very wrong, because the truth is that we are millions of immigrants in these places where you think you are the only one. They could be a fellow Cameroon person near you and you're speaking about them. So be watchful. And I also want to say that as immigrants, we assume that we are going to bring full all the beliefs we had, all the cultures we had, come with us. I am not against that. Yes, it is very possible we come with it. But again, we have to know that where we've come, there is a system that we have found. Okay? Those countries where we go, they already laid their systems. They already know how they want to run their countries. So us who are coming in, actually sometimes after failing to change our own systems, we assume that we're going to be able to change the systems in these places we've gone. That could be very hard. You know, I always say that it's going to be hard. It's like a man going to Mr. Selmaga's house and trying to become, to change the system in that family. You failed your wife and your family, and then you come in this house maybe for a month visit, let's say, and you start trying to fix Mr. Selmaga's home. It will be so hard, you know. So what am I saying? That we assume sometimes that the way our systems run in our countries will be the same way the system is gonna run where we've gone. No, it's not gonna work that. I'm gonna be open to you. My friends, it won't work like that. That's a wrong assumption. If you used to give muntu chidogo, chintu chidogo, small things, you know, to the police officer, as you are found speeding on the road, and you give them something, that won't work here. For instance, in America, when you're stopped driving drunk, just know you're gonna face the law. You're not going to bribe this guy. So don't assume that because that worked where you came from, it's going to work here. Okay? Don't think that now you got an office where you're working right now, and you come hang your jacket on the back of your seat and go out for 2 hours, that's gonna work in another country where you've gone as an immigrant. That might have worked where you were in for instance, in Uganda, because you go to an office, the boss is not there for maybe 3 hours. You are seated on the bench waiting for the boss, but the jacket is hanging. You know, he's coming. They keep the secretary keeps saying he's coming back. But here in America, if you're working 8 hours, you are expected to be in that office for those 8 hours. So if you are not doing that, you won't be surprised to be terminated. And don't play the rest card. Okay? Don't say, oh, because I had an accent, that's why I was terminated. No, it's just because you are not doing your job. Okay? You're supposed to be at work at 7. You come in 11 every day, not one day, not 2 days, but every day you're coming in that time because you know you are the boss, assuming that that boss ticket will help you, you know, enjoy the freedom of coming in late. That is wrong in some of these places. So that is also another wrong assumption. I mean, assumption is not good. We should work towards erasing it out of ourselves. I'm telling you, it's not good. It kills relationships. That when it comes to assumptions in relationships, I'm gonna wait for the couples talk show that, you know, airs on the Jen Somaga show with my husband or with some other couples, and we talk about assumptions in relationships. But I'm telling you, assumptions can cause problems to your, in your relationship, even among, us with friends. So that is something that I feel that we should work towards erasing in our souls. Oh, I would go on and on and on with assumptions, but for today, I'm going to just leave us one way or two of how we should work on it. Let us assess ourselves every day. When you wake up, assess yourself. How best can I work around this situation? Let us be willing to listen, because most times it's just because we don't listen, we just take our side, because someone who is assuming just takes their side. They don't want to listen to hear what the other person is saying. Maybe the person has something to say that could be right from what your thoughts are. So listening in is very important when it comes to the assumptions, ways we can, delete or erase the assumption behavior in us. And also to be willing to flex. I always say being flexible, being willingness to learn. Don't assume that you know it all. I pray every day and say, God, help me to learn, even to learn from my children. Because sometimes as parents, we assume we know it all. We are not willing to learn from our children. These children know a lot that we don't know. Maybe you'll agree or disagree with me, but these kids these days know better than we do. I'm telling you, one time, my daughter, my youngest, the youngest, she's just 9. So we are planning to go to a wedding, and I was dressing up. And she tells me, Mommy, you cannot wear that dress. And I'm like, why? She told me that dress has a trail on it. And that means you're going to outshine the bride, the bridegroom. I didn't know that you should avoid dressing, putting on a dress with a trail on when you are going to a wedding. And I learned that from her, okay? I learned that from her because where I grew up, we used to do that. There is a lot that we learn from children. So as parents too, we should stop assuming that our children know nothing. They can't advise us. They can, because in my local language, there is a saying that says, no muto akube ngoma, no kolachi, no zina. Which means that a young child your child can drum and you dance, So that assumption too, as parents, that our kids know nothing is wrong. So therefore, we should be very flexible. We should be willing to learn. We should be willing to listen, and that's how we're gonna do better, and we'll avoid problems and destroying our relationships with others. I love you so much, guys. Thank you for tuning in on the Jensen Maga Show. Do not forget to share. Do not forget to comment. Do not forget to whisper, gossip about this show. May God bless you. I love you so much. Stay tuned, and may God keep you safe for me.